Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. We've got another great show for you. I'm your host, Rick Beck, our co-host, Lori Hintz.
Thanks so much.
We are going to be talking about several interesting things.
Agreed. Plus, we have a guest a little later on, too. But first, we're going to talk about somebody who is on fire lately. This guy is on fire.
Yep.
We're talking about Rand Paul.
Senator Rand Paul. Love him.
I know.
Love him, love him, love him.
I know, and he's so unafraid. He's just like the show.
Yep. You know, and his dad, Ron Paul, is a hero to many small government people. And there was a little bit of consternation that maybe Rand wasn't stepping up. But Rand pops in. He plays a little bit. He plays the game a little bit, but he steps up periodically and has for several years now.
Agreed.
He stepped up and gave a great speech based on some of these spending bills that they have been passing.
We are borrowing and worsening this debt crisis in part because too many governors and mayors have imposed heavy-handed restrictions that crush business. It isn't the pandemic that's killing the economy, it's the government's overzealous response that is killing the economy. The pandemic itself was disrupted, but Congress is being asked to help perpetuate these lockdowns. The more money we give to the states, the more they keep us in lockdown. Every bailout dollar printed and passed out to the governors only allows these tin-pot dictators to perpetuate the lockdowns. Their rules are arbitrary and unscientific. Governors and mayors across the country are picking winners and losers. Bars are told that they can only serve alcohol if people are sitting and not standing, and only if they have heavy foods on their menus. Restaurants are told they can serve outdoors, then they have their permission revoked after they've sunk time and money converting their restaurant to outdoor services. But a caterer is told they can still serve outside. Businesses are told they have to close at an arbitrary time determined by government officials as though the virus only comes out late at night. A business in one zip code can open, but one in an adjoining zip code across the street has to close, as if the virus can't cross an imaginary line. Mom and pop stores and specialty stores are forced to close, but big box store competitors are allowed to stay open. How is any business expected to survive with this kind of arbitrary regulation that changes from day to day? The need for help is real. I hear it every day from Kentuckians and across the country. But it's clear that government has worsened the economic damage and acted as the biggest obstacle to economic recovery. There is no free money that can get us out of this situation. The only thing that can save us is to open the economy. If we give these tin-pot dictators, these governors, more money, they're less likely to open the economy. The answer is not printing up and distributing free money. It's opening the economy.
That's fantastic.
Mic drop.
I want to kiss that man
I
on the mouth.
know, right? He's so great.
Yeah.
I mean, everything he said, he had me at tin-pot dictators.
Yeah, I love tin-pot dictators, and because just how succinct and appropriate. We're going to hit some of that. One of the things I wanted to mention, when he was explaining that it's not COVID that was causing so much of the damage in the country, but it was the government response, these tin-pot dictators, and what they're doing to their states, and that we are seeing so much damage, so much harm, destroying our economy.
He just said it in such a beautiful way, too. I don't know about you, but I was mesmerized watching him because he's exactly right on count after count after count after count.
Yep. So we're going to hit a few governors.
Yes.
So a few tin-pot dictators. And there are several.
You may know their names, actually.
Right. And as you know, I'm not a fan of the actions of our very own governor, but because the numbers hit earlier and a little bit harder in some of these other states, and because they would have had less pushback than our own governor would have had, they did go farther and were well beyond where they should have been.
Let's start in Michigan with Governor Whitmer. You may have heard of this lady. She was early on troublesome. So Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and her issue was the Michigan Supreme Court ruled against her executive orders finally and just said, enough, lady, listen, this is not working. You are obviously overreaching and overstepping. And so they went after her with her executive orders.
Yeah, in her particular case, she was like
there.
out. She was crazy executive order after executive order, and she continued. I mean, she just sucked in that power.
It was
and
brutal for
displayed
Michigan.
It was very brutal. The thing is, though, in Michigan in particular, there was a limit on what she could do. And the legislature came in and also essentially tried to stop it. She still goes beyond. It's like she's drunk with power. She can't stop.
Well, that seems to be a theme with some of these dictators here, too. Next, we're going to go to New York and talk about Andrew Cuomo. This is brother of Chris and son of Mario. Canceled Thanksgiving, basically. He just canceled Thanksgiving for everybody and said, you know what, you can't do Thanksgiving.
Well, this guy is... I don't know. Have you watched much of him when he's doing his press conferences?
Only a very little because I have to leave. I cannot do it. I just can't.
Is so full of himself.
Yeah, he really is.
He is so smug. It just, if you look up smug in the dictionary,
It's
surprisingly it has his picture, yeah.
This is the same guy, however, that sent people with COVID to nursing homes.
Exactly. Well, you know, he's one of the best governors based on the COVID response, according to the press and himself. But yeah, New York had a tremendously high death rate early on, especially with the elderly, because he, by his order, sent COVID positive people into the nursing homes and said the nursing homes cannot exclude them. So, and then he blamed it on Trump.
That just killed me,
which had
too.
nothing
Right?
to do with Trump at all.
That was unbelievable. Now we're going to move on to this. This guy is in his whole class all by himself. This is the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom has been doing some bizarre things in California. You may remember his famous flaunting of the big group dining rules. The judge then had to pull back his dictatorial mandates a bit, and then he came back with some far-reaching, major overstepping executive orders on banning diesel cars, and we're going to get to this. Yes, yeah. Now he's like banning gas and diesel vehicles by 2035.
Yeah. So this is a guy, so he's part of a cabal. He's part of a family. He's one of the super elites, political elites.
Right.
Very tied in with Nancy Pelosi. You know, I mean, you go back
that should tell you all
3
you need to know right
generations,
there.
and these guys are everyone. It's so incestuous, you
Agreed.
know, figuratively speaking. But this guy, and he's one of many that also ignored his own orders and was caught, which is the usual thing for these crazy liberal elites.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, hypocrisy.
But he really thinks he's king of California.
He really does. And if you think there are people leaving California in droves, he's probably why. In addition to everything else that goes on in California, he's probably a really good reason for the outflux
New York
of people.
and California, they're leaving
exactly.
in droves. And
no question.
the other thing about Newsom, though, is that he's gone so far beyond. He's taken this opportunity, and kind of like we talked about with Governor Whitmer in Michigan.
Right.
It's like he just became drunk, and he cannot let go, and he's going at every single opportunity he can, and like we saw in the graphic, also mandating that they go with all electric vehicles, which I like to call coal vehicles.
Right, exactly.
Because it's based on electric energy.
That's so true.
But
and of course,
nuts.
the piece de resistance next door, we've got Governor Tim Walz. This guy, again, just unbelievable. I have a lot of friends and family in Minnesota, as you have a daughter in Minnesota too, and they can tell you horror stories of you know, all sorts of wildly unpopular right now. Owners across the state are straight up opening anyway and defying his orders. They're just like, we've had it, we are out, we're done, we're just going to open up. Come at me, bro. His executive orders closing bars and restaurants are extremely unpopular in Minnesota, as you can imagine.
Well, exactly, and I have to. You know, hats off to the group of bar and restaurant owners that came together. And, you know, we talked about that. We did that here in the Bismarck region. And then, of course, when our governor found out about it, then he lifted the curfew. But hats off to them, because it's only when people stand up to this type of power-hungry tyranny, the tin pot dictators, as Senator Rand Paul states, is when we are going to be able to see sort of them shirk under the fact that they actually don't have the standing to exert those types of powers.
Somehow we got to wrest it back as the people. We just have to do that. So when we come back in our next segment, we're going to go back and we're going to talk some more about this amazing Rand Paul. So join us in just a moment.
I need more Rand.
Back News brings you real people and real news. every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. I need me some more Rand Paul. Not more cowbell.
No.
More Rand Paul.
That is all true. You know, there are certain things that you and I differ a little bit on, maybe like the possibility of the presidency. This, we completely agree on.
We do.
He was just phenomenal. And as you saw in the previous clips, that he was just articulating beautifully how all of us are, you know, basically screaming at our TVs right now, things like that.
Yep.
So there are so many different words that he has said that are phenomenal that we've got even more for you. So we had to do a whole second segment here on this same topic.
The monster spending bill presented today is not just a deficits don't matter disaster, it is everything Republicans say they don't believe in. The Treasury can just keep printing the money. That is, until someone points out that the emperor has no clothes and that the dollar no longer has value. To so-called conservatives who are quick to identify the socialism of Democrats, if you vote for this spending monstrosity, you are no better. So the next time you see Republicans in high moral dudgeon claiming and complaining about spending of Democrats and socialism, remind them if they supported this monstrous bill that really the difference between the parties is less Adam Smith versus Marx and more Marx versus Engels. How bad is our fiscal situation? Well, the federal government brought in $3.3 trillion last year and spent $6.6 trillion. The deficit last year, a record-busting $3.3 trillion. If you're looking for more COVID bailout money, we don't have any. The coffers are bare. We have no rainy day fund. We have no savings account. Congress has spent all the money long ago. This is the money that your children and your grandchildren will pay back with interest. The deficit doubling and tripling. Under George Bush, it went from $5 trillion to $10 trillion. Under President Obama, it went from 10 to 20 trillion. We're now at 27 trillion, but we're adding it at $1 trillion a year before we get to this COVID budget-busting bailout. Every tax-paying American already owes over $136,000. But $1 billion ago was just 80 minutes ago. $1 billion ago at the rate Congress spends money was just 80 minutes ago. Leadership is not passing on the problem to someone who can't protest. Leadership is making the hard choices now.
That was just fantastic, and he's so right, especially with all the fiscal issues. This was all obviously on the same sort of topic again, and he's spot on. Nobody wants 80, what did he say, 80 billion in eight, yeah, it was $1 billion every 80 minutes. I was like, okay, that's a lot of money. And you know, you need to put it in terms that people can understand like that.
Yes, absolutely. There's a couple, 3 actually quotes that he just said in those clips. One, it is everything Republicans say they don't believe in. And this is something that we see over and over and over on a state level, on a federal level.
Right.
When you look, and I'll hit North Dakota, the Republican Party platform for the state is a fantastic platform.
It is.
And the excuses that people have to not vote in line with that platform are amazing. It's one of these times we'll do a segment or 2 on what I call the yeah but Republicans.
The yeah but?
The yeah but. That's our platform, but.
I see.
That's what it is all the time. And on a national level, it's the same thing. The second is he says it's less Adam Smith versus Marx and more Marx versus Engels. So Marx and Engels were the ones that came up with the idea of Marxism with a communist manifesto. They had shared ideas and so forth. And so again, we have Adam Smith is, if you might say, some people consider him the father of free markets. And so he would be someone that a Republican, a true Republican, would identify with versus the opposite end of the political spectrum, which would be a Marx. And so it's not those types of things. We're actually battling, as Senator Paul says, 2 people that are very closely aligned, because either way, whether it's Dems or whether it's Republicans, they're spending a ton. And yes, I will grant you the Dems are far worse. But what you're looking at in this type of circumstance, in my opinion, is the lesser of 2 evils.
Correct.
It's most unfortunate. The last one is, this is the money that your children and your grandchildren will pay back with interest.
Oh, that's
you can't say that enough times.
Right.
It's absolutely true. And I don't want to hog the whole segment, Lori,
no,
but
no
one more thing I was going to bring out. You know, Ladies of Another View had Senator Kramer on, and he gave nuance to what's going on and kind of brought it into terms that made it so that we could discuss it a little bit better. One of the things he had talked about was that 600 billion of the 900 billion.
Right.
Wow.
I know, right? I know it's
600
billion, trillion
of the 900 billion was stuff that was already allegedly spent or appropriated but didn't get spent, and so now it's back. But see, the problem is that's not already spent. You can then decide, hey, that didn't get spent. We're not going to do it anymore.
Right.
That's $600 billion that the American taxpayers don't have to cough up.
That was an excellent segment, by the way. If you want to go back and watch it, it is archived, and you can find it on beck.news and look for the one from December 23rd, and you can see that interview because it was very good too. Yeah, Renee did a really good job on that too.
Yeah.
The girls, the Ladies of Another View. So yeah, we'll give a little cross plug to that because it was very meaty, and you're right, he had a lot of really interesting answers for things like that too. He also, if I remember correctly, he also said that President Trump was the one who wanted a lot of the spending for some of the other countries, and so that's why that was in the bill too. So it was a good explanation to hear out of the senator's own mouth. So.
Yeah, although that still doesn't give it a pass in my book.
No.
Now, one last thing.
He explained it.
One last thing. He said the word, I had to look it up while our viewers were watching Senator Paul, dudgeon. Dudgeon.
What's the word dudgeon?
A feeling of offense or deep resentment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I just learned literally
New brain food word.
Right now, a new word, a feeling of deep resentment, dudgeon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah. I liked how he used the word monstrosity because that is a really good, very descriptive word as well.
Right. So yeah, thanks to what has occurred this year alone, there's an extra $9,000, just short of $10,000 for every American, or $16,000 for every American that's an adult and not yet retired. Huge, huge numbers. And the question is, who's going to pay for it? And I think the problem is we just say, well, we're going to kick the can down the road. Someone's paying for it, folks. It's either going to be us not having anything to fall back on, or it's going to be the future generations. Probably a combination of the two.
Kids and grandkids probably too. So when we come back, we are going to introduce you to somebody who is an expert in firearms and get his take on some things. We'll be right back with Clay Pederson.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best-built, best-backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck, your after-hours oasis of sanity. We have a guest with us that we're very excited about, Clay Pederson, a previous field rep for the NRA for both the Dakotas.
Yes.
Welcome.
And for how long were you the field rep for North and South Dakota, Clay?
Just shy of 10 years.
Wow,
I held that position. I was senior field rep and pretty much in charge of everything going on in the Dakotas.
That's fantastic. Well, we're really happy to have you here today. Let's talk first of all about the backstory of the NRA and a little bit about its founding, how it got started, and then we'll get into a lawsuit that they're dealing with.
Really what happened was during the Civil War, marksmanship was so poor that they decided they needed to do something. And basically the NRA was born in New York, of all states. New York was
New
the
York
state.
City!
Yes. So
sorry, old commercial. I'm just dating myself there. Sorry about that.
But no, they founded in 1871. They incorporated in New York, hence what's going to be happening here and has been happening the last few months to improve marksmanship. General Sideburns, as we always called him, and got a big picture up there in NRA headquarters as our first president, and he's the guy that really made it all happen. They weren't the powerhouse they are today. They really started out to be a competition and shooting marksmanship program to get better marksmanship.
Have they developed over the years more into education? Seems like they're more into educating people and teaching.
They did. That came about, basically after the turn of the century. And then after 1934, as we know, we had the NFA, the National Firearms Act, through then, which that was affecting the $200 tax stamps, which were collecting, them were considered a luxury item at that time for things like full autos, which, by the way, you can still own as long as they're pre-1986 today. Then you had the 1968 Gun Control Act come about, and that's kind of when everything kind of come to where they needed to start educating, maybe start fighting those battles legislatively. The ILA, which is Institute for Legislative Action, never came about till, I believe, 1975.
Oh, wow.
So but they were active before that, but they did. They really, the education part of that, I mean, you could see it in some of the history. They had to actually leave their range in New York. They had a little piece of property out there that was turned into a range. Again, this is New York State on Long Island, and they held competitions there. But they had to actually get rid of that because all of a sudden, even back then, it was what, 1870, I forget what the year was, honestly. It wasn't a popular idea to have long range and shooting competitions, so that's when they moved out of there. But yeah.
So they moved the headquarters elsewhere, but they were still incorporated in New York, which is the rub, right?
Yes, and and that's what's happening with the lawsuit today.
Well, let's talk about that.
Give the basics for our viewers that don't know anything about it.
About the lawsuit?
Yes.
Well, so I don't get my facts wrong, I'm going to go ahead and what happened here in August of this year, 2020. The Attorney General filed a lawsuit essentially trying to dissolve the NRA. And what that's going to do is it's accusing the NRA being they're incorporated in the state of New York, and they're still incorporated there. It's just really expensive to change that incorporation. They're in Fairfax, Virginia today, but they're incorporated in the state of New York. And the Attorney General,
Letitia
James.
Yeah, Letitia James.
When she campaigned, she basically said, I want to get rid of the NRA.
Wow.
I mean, that's what she campaigned on. So this is a political statement. And what's so, to me, terrifying about something like this is if they can take down the NRA because they hold an incorporation in New York State because they don't like their political view on something,
right.
What about other organizations?
Everything is in jeopardy.
And they're trying to say that they wasted money. And we all know the debacle that happened here basically last annual meetings. Remember, there's the NRA parent company, and that's actually the National Rifle Association of America, and then you have the NRA Foundation, which is the charitable part.
Right.
They're trying to mix them because most people, I bet you guys didn't even know that.
I knew that there were two.
Okay, and there's actually about 5 different parts to the NRA. NRA is the parent.
Got it.
You have Whittington Center, NRA ILA, which is Institute for Legislative Action, NRA PVF, which is Political Victory Fund, and then I can't remember the other one myself, but there's actually other segments other than the NRA, and NRA Foundation happens to be one of those. They are the 501c3 nonprofit charitable, and I can guarantee you, as that's where most of my work took place with the NRA, that money is 100% accounted for. It wasn't even used to pay our wages.
Wow.
It went back into those grant programs 100%, and you can look it up. I was actually online checking it out. They got their financial report out there from 2018, which is the last one they had to do. They'll do another one, I believe, in 2020.
Their website's fantastic, and it's very transparent, as you say.
Very transparent, and I mean, they account for every single dollar in that program. So it's this idea that they're using those charitable funds for personal expenses, It's not coming from the NRA Foundation, and to me, that's what's going on here. They're trying to cloud that. She probably doesn't even know that there's a separate deal. And by the way, that was not incorporated in New York, the NRA Foundation, when they incorporated that.
So are you going to get incorporated in Virginia?
I don't see them doing that, not with the National Rifle Association. Of course, I've been retired now for about 5 years. It's a very lengthy and expensive process. They haven't hinted that they're doing it. Of course, I'm not in the know anymore on that. I know it was talked about even when I was there, but I don't know if they'll ever get it done. They might be forced to.
Right. You'd think that it would be good to cut your losses. I mean, how long do you want to fight in the courts in New York against a perennial attempt to try and dismantle
And
you?
somebody who literally has a target on you.
Very
Sorry
true.
about that, guys.
Very true. And although, as we all know, the NRA likes to fight. I mean, that's probably why it's been so successful. I mean, let's face it. When you got 5 million members, and like every other organization, I always, oh, the NRA does this or the NRA did that. There are a lot of things I belong to that I don't like everything they do, but I like the mission they're probably on and the goal they'd like to be part of. NRA is the same way. But they are the 200-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to federal legislation. Without them today, you would not have the firearms rights you have today. You just wouldn't.
That's true. Because they've been very successful at lobbying.
They're good at what they do.
Yep,
and,
that's right.
You know, Chris Cox isn't there anymore. I really liked Chris. I got to know him. I really enjoyed visiting with him when I was out there. I don't know the new guy, but I can tell you, it was James Baker before that and then Chris Cox. Those guys knew what they were doing, and they were good at what they did.
Right.
And we probably owe them a lot of gratitude and credit for the rights that we still have today.
So there is now a counter lawsuit. 6 attorneys general have decided to come on board, and the states involved, the brief was submitted by the attorneys general of Alaska, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Mississippi, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and West Virginia. I did not see North Dakota in there.
Yeah, 16 total states have joined on to that, basically joining the fight in support, of course, of the National Rifle Association. And once again, Attorney General Wayne Stenjum and the North Dakota state is not present in this fight. I don't know what it is about our Attorney General's office, and I don't care. He can give me a call anytime he wants. I had these battles with him. He was always absent. He never got involved. He didn't. To me, that's, if you're not taking a side, you're not in the fight. I kind of know where you stand.
So would it behoove those North Dakotans who would like to be part of that lawsuit to contact the Attorney General's office? And
it works.
Yep, always.
It
always
does.
works.
Yep.
Let me ask you though, Clay, what's the standing for other states to come in and support the NRA in this lawsuit?
I think that, well, like we talked earlier, what would stop them if they're successful in New York? Pulling one organization's incorporated papers.
Right.
What's to stop them from doing it in any other state?
Right.
So I mean, there's actually some benefit for the state, even if it's not the Second Amendment fight. Just from, I mean, it might, like the ACLU. Now, them are not bedfellows that the NRA and them are ever part of.
Right.
But they've even come on board basically saying, hey, we can't have this. They could come in and do this to us.
Oh yeah.
And they could. You get somebody in there who doesn't like your political views
right.
or
That's
your
the bottom
standing,
line right there.
and they can take it out.
Exactly.
By just go ahead and file, maybe against a group that
Well,
don't
and-
have the money to defend itself.
And like
then
Letitia
they're done.
James did, just targeting somebody and saying, that's it, I'm going to take them out, and we
Yep.
can't have that, right? So, okay.
Let's, you've agreed to stay on for another segment. I want to talk about laws particular to North Dakota, what's been tried, what's going to be tried, and so on and so forth. We'll be right back, folks.
Howdy folks, it's the Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. We're back with Clay Pederson, former senior field rep for the NRA. We've had a very interesting discussion. We're going to get into a few more interesting tidbits and then some particulars on legislation in North Dakota.
Well, we're on the cusp of a...
There's a lot of things going on.
There's a lot going on here in very short order here in North Dakota.
Yeah, basically, I'm most worried probably about red flag laws coming back. You probably remember red flag laws quite vividly. Unfortunately, I was gone that day when that was on the floor, or I'd have probably been there. We were working on a different bill. So, And red flag laws, for those that don't know what they are, essentially what they do is they make you a criminal without any evidence.
No due process.
No due process whatsoever. And unfortunately, our House, or our majority leader, Mr. Wardner, was for it. I think he's rescinded that at this point. I don't know.
Yep.
Anytime you come out for something like that, though, and then you rescind it, I don't believe you.
Right.
Plain and simple. You got to really, again, convince me.
Right.
And, of course, Kirsten Baszler. I remember the whole lineup there going, wow, we have a Republican-controlled legislature with a Republican governor, and I believe Burgum would have signed the bill. I really
absolutely.
do.
I think the Fargo and West Fargo police chiefs were in favor of it.
I'm sure they were.
They absolutely were. And interesting.
Explain what red flag laws are, though. You touched on it, but specifically what happens is you can call somebody out with no reason, and all of a sudden they get their guns garnished.
Say I get mad at you tonight.
Right.
And I walk out and I go, well, you know what, I feel like I'm threatened. I can call up the Bismarck PD. I can say that I feel threatened under red flag law. They'll come to your house, take all your guns. Now you have to prove you're not guilty.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some nuances in there. You know, if you purposely do it fraudulently, you can be charged with a crime. But the point is that there is no due process. They will come, they will take your guns, and then you have to work in the court system to try and prove that you deserve your guns back.
And that's
Clay,
expensive.
there are states that have this law already, these red flag laws, all over the place, and we're trying to fight it in North Dakota. So
there's basically it's a cover list of the liberal states.
Right,
they
sure.
have it. Maryland has this, and it's been used badly. There's been cases out there, and yeah, you have to then go to court to prove that all these things you're being accused of are not true. and then getting your firearms back, and that's tough enough as it is. I remember when I was working for the NRA, and I finally got the guy in touch with our Civil Rights Defense League within the NRA, but he lived out there in that Belfield area. It was an accidental shooting. Was there negligence on his part? Probably, but that is not what they were trying to accuse him of. They were basically saying it was trying to take his kids away, calling it a safety factor, essentially making him a bad parent. Because he had actually consumed one drink at home, was not drunk, and saying that's why the firearm was left out and loaded and why the accident happened. It was a horrible accident. The child lived. It was his own daughter.
Right.
And we fought for over a year to get those guns back. They took them all. They didn't just take the one that was involved in the incident.
Yeah.
That vote for the bill failed, of course, but interestingly, Lori, it was a vote of 17 to 76.
Wow,
Yeah.
1776.
That was
Oh,
kind of a
is-
little fun.
Oh, that's an easy way to remember it,
Yes,
isn't
it
it? That's
was.
fantastic. I love that.
That was just icing on the cake.
Right.
So last time around, not the first time it had come up, but in 19, I submitted a bill that would have effectively nullified federal gun restrictions greater than the state. Some states call it a Second Amendment preservation law. I'm thinking about bringing something like that back, planning on it. And then kind of a tidying up of the constitutional carry bill. And so, are there other bills in addition to something like that you'd like to see passed?
I'd like to see stand your ground come. I think it's, we have that in South Dakota. It did not turn it into the Wild West as they were predicting. Essentially, if I have a threat upon or feel a threat, that strong of a threat, I can use deadly force.
To protect yourself and your family.
myself and my family. Right now in North Dakota, you can't do that.
Wow.
You can do it, but you will be arrested probably for manslaughter or whatever charge they would probably bring forward.
Sounds like a good law to me, but just on its face.
I mean, most likely, if the evidence says that you're not guilty and you can prove, but again, there you have to prove that there was a threat upon your life.
There's something wrong with that if the onus is always put on the citizen like that, isn't it? I mean,
We see that a lot as landowners.
right. So I'm going to go worst case scenario, a Biden administration.
Oh, goodness.
I'm just going to go there, just, hypothetical.
Well, in his 47 years, I mean, he hasn't seen a gun bill he didn't like in Congress.
Wow.
The guy is no friend to us in the United States or for the Constitution, especially with the Second Amendment. And his running mate, Kamala, is even worse.
Lovely.
And if you look at the people that he's announcing to go into these head positions, I mean, they're not friends of the Second Amendment either. I really fear that they will take something like the ATF, who we were visiting with earlier about their rescinding of their latest debacle. But when the bump stock thing came out and everybody had that fight, oh, it's not a big deal, it's just a bump stock. The problem was it was a regulatory change that basically turned in a piece of plastic that you put an accessory on your firearm, that being an AR was the firearm of that, and turned it into a National Firearms Act item. The NFA, if you're not familiar with it, that basically banned possession of all firearms that were full auto, unless you had the $200 tax stamp and the background check. Same thing you got to go through for a suppressor, which has a whole nother segment probably. But that's the problem with this. They could come in and use the ATF and say, you know what, today we think that an 80% lower receiver now is a firearm because it can be used to make a firearm. You got to have some pretty skilled knowledge and machines to finish out a lower receiver, to make it a functioning lower receiver. It ain't like you can go into your garage and get a drill and Dremel it out.
2 days ago, Clay, in New York, they had this article that said New York is approving barely 10% of new gun permits. Like 10% actually get gun permits in New York.
Like I said, I think that's up from what it used to be, but it's...
We got 1 minute,
It's horrible, and essentially, if you ain't a high-level celebrity, you're probably not going to get one. They do
Which is
have
ridiculous.
it, but
That is
they
so
don't
ridiculous.
want to
What about Joe Average citizen who wants to protect themselves and their family?
Very few
It's
get
just craziness.
them. President Trump actually had when he lived in New York and was not our president. He had one.
He did.
I'm sure he still does, but
I'm certain.
you know, that's what it takes. You got to be that kind of
that level.
Yeah.
That's just really sad. Well, it'll be interesting to watch the legislative session this time, and I hope maybe we can go red flags and stand your ground. I like that idea.
I'll be there. Call me up.
I'm predicting we're not going to see red flag.
Really?
Yeah.
It'll be, I don't know. You know, I really thought we would until all this China plague stuff took place, but maybe we won't now.
Yeah.
Maybe there's going to be other issues.
The Republicans got beat down last time. The ones that signed on got beat down bad.
And they should have.
But so I think that's dead in the water
That's
in
a good
North
thing.
Dakota for at least a few more years.
Till I get in there.
Yeah, maybe so. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure
great.
having you on.
Anytime.
We'll have you again sometime. Yeah. So folks, stay with us. We're going to be back with another segment. This time,
Brain food.
Howdy, folks. It's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boss breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota. Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here were terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck. It's time for Brain Food, which we call nutrition for your brain and which some people call trivia.
I like it. It's really good. I always learn something, and you always educate me on at least one thing each time we do Brain Food. I like that. So I thought we would do a little theme for me anyway today of the new year, since we're coming close to New Year's Eve. So my very first word or phrase today is Auld Lang Syne, and it's not Zine like a Z. It's Lang Syne.
Sign. Auld Lang Syne.
sign. Anyway, the backstory is it is a Scots language poem that was written by Robert Burns in 1788. And in that poem, he talks a little bit about, well, kind of about New Year's Eve, I guess. This is how it goes. It's derived from the same old song by 1711 by James Watson. And this is how it is. I'm not going to sing it to y'all. But should old acquaintance be forgot and never thought upon, the flames of love extinguished and fully past and gone. No, don't sing. Is thy sweetheart now grown so cold, that loving breast of thine, that thou canst never once reflect on old long sign? Chorus goes, on old long sign, my Joe, on old long sign, that thou canst never once reflect on old long sign. And I did this topic and all of a sudden popped in my head, and now for days on end I've been singing the Dan Fogelberg Same Old Lang Syne in my, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I cannot, now it's a brain worm and I cannot get it out of my brain, and probably not until after New Year's.
Brain worm is eating
It's a brain worm's eating the brain food. Yeah, but I love that song. But anyway, that's the story here. The poem Scott's title may be translated in standard English to Old Long Since. Past, going in the past, old long since.
See.
Old times.
I see.
So what do you got?
All right. I'm taking a different tack.
Okay.
Alexander Mackenzie.
Okay, so here's the cool thing.
Yes.
My oldest son has the middle name Mackenzie, and it's spelled that way on purpose. And we decided on that middle name for him because Mackenzie is close, like about 20 minutes away, 20 miles away from Bismarck, and I thought it was a really cool name, and my husband chose it. I mean, I gave him some options, and he was the one who chose it because we found out that Mackenzie, the meaning of Mackenzie, was son of the wise ruler.
Son of the wise ruler.
Yeah.
So Alexander Mackenzie is well known in old-time North Dakota politics.
Right.
He is the namesake of, or was it the vice versa? Anyway, he is the reason for the naming of Mackenzie County, the town of Mackenzie and the town of Alexander in North Dakota. So this guy was a kingpin. He was a kingmaker in North Dakota. He came into town, and by a bad accident in which the sheriff of Burleigh County drowned in the Missouri River, he was appointed as the sheriff, and he served as the sheriff for about 12 years.
Wasn't he kind of a tough guy, too?
He was a
Seems
tough guy.
like
He was a U.S. Marshal.
Right.
The thing is that he maneuvered and leveraged and became so powerful simply by mixing it up with other political players and rich businessmen. And he became so powerful that he started basically hand-picking Republicans that would run for U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, and state legislature as well.
Wow.
The Mackenzie, which is now the Pederson in Bismarck. Pederson used to be the Mackenzie. It was originally the Mackenzie Hotel.
Right.
And of course named after him. That was the hot seat for politics in the very early 1900s. And there's one other thing. When I was doing a little research for this little segment, he had to go to jail because what he did is up in Alaska they had gold mines, and he basically appointed people and got people into positions of power for the judges and various things, and they essentially, we'll just say, filed a lawsuit where they said he had claim to the gold mines. And he took control, so then the owners of the gold mines had to fight it in court. While they were fighting it in court, he was mining and
taking
keeping
everything
all
out
the
of
gold.
it all for fun.
Yeah.
So he was very wealthy in addition to powerful.
Yeah. Anyway, he ended up in jail for that, but only, I forget if it was a month or two out of a 3-year term. But
oh, how interesting.
Crazy interesting history there.
I was looking up Mackenzie County. I looked that up before this, and in January of 2019, Mackenzie County was the top oil-producing county in the U.S. Texas was the number 1 state, but North Dakota had the top county in 2019. So very cool. That's all I got about Mackenzie, but that and my kid's name. So I'm going to circle back to the New Year again, and in the New Year's Eve theme anyway, ring in the new year. I was going to look at that phrase a little bit, and the reason it made me think of it is because I keep hearing people say bring in the new year rather than ring in the new year, and I always thought that I'm kind of a purist, whole Oxford comma thing. Anyway, so Anyway, I found out that either is actually correct. So you're fine by saying ringing in the new year, but I'm kind of a purist. Ring in the new year. It's an idiom. It's a phrase that originated in the UK. It was used customary in England to ring out something old, the old year, at midnight on New Year's Eve by tolling the church bells, ding, ding, ding. Then, of course, it's midnight. And then ringing in the new year with a cheerful peal, they said. There is a well-known poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson, written in 1850, that refers to this custom. So I'm going to read this to you. This is the first verse. Ring out the old, ring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. The year is going, let him go. Ring out the false, ring in the true. I thought that was very apropos for No Apologies with Becker.
Yeah, very much. Very much. Okay.
I know.
So, and I've got one more old guy
okay.
to talk about. James J. Hill. I really, really like this guy. He was a railroad dude. And one of the reasons I liked him most for quite some time is that he effectively did a transcontinental railroad without much, if any, federal funding. He did the Great Northern Railroad.
Wow.
And it went from St. Paul to Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It was amazing. But I did learn a little bit more. One of the reasons he wasn't doing taking the federal funding is he was worried that if they were making too much profit, the federal government was going to lower the mandated tariffs and he would lose a tremendous amount of income. So rather than taking federal money, he was taking his profits, putting them back in, taking it as a business deduction, showing very, very little profit, and building his railroad.
Brilliant.
Additionally, he was just like Mackenzie, very entwined with power politics. So a very fascinating figure. He was a Bourbon Democrat.
A nice name, Bourbon Democrat. That's perfect. And you know what? I have actually been to the James J. Hill. It's a house. It's on Summit Avenue, and we've toured that house before. And now I just made that connection. That's super cool. It's an amazing tour if you get to do it. Yeah, I would highly recommend that. And before we go today, I have one little thing that I want to say too. For those of you who are wondering what is going on with the United States and with the Three Amigos, maybe asking, I'm talking about our congressional guys, asking them to maybe object to the January 6th certification, call them. If we've learned anything from this show is that if you get involved and make yourself heard, things happen. So if you feel like, hey, why aren't our legislators objecting, go for it. Give them calls. You can find their numbers. So.
All right.
Thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, tomorrow night we got a lot more interesting stuff for you. We'll see you then.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.